our breaking news coverage continues here on News Nation. I'm Blake Burman. This is The Hill on News Nation. The search still at this hour is underway for an assassin. A manhunt in Utah as state and federal law enforcement are trying to track down Charlie Kirk's killer. President Trump saying he spoke with Kirk's wife earlier today.
I spoke to Erica, his wife, and we had a long talk, and she's devastated. She is absolutely devastated, as you can imagine.
The FBI now releasing photos of who they are describing as a person of interest, offering a $100,000 reward for any information leading to the arrest of the shooter. Earlier this morning, the president moving his event to commemorate the anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks indoors. The move out of, quote, an abundance of caution. The president saying he's going to give Kirk the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And the commander-in-chief, as I mentioned, at the Pentagon today. He is soon set to be at Yankee Stadium any moment now, as the country keeps its vow to never forget the brave heroes on September 11th, 2001, 24 years ago today, and the many who defended this country in the days and years following. Our coverage tonight here on The Hill and on News Nation continues all across this country. Kelly Meyer in Washington right now. Allie Bradley is out in Arizona. Laura Ingle in the Bronx. But first, we begin tonight here on The Hill with our Brian Enton at Utah Valley University, where that manhunt continues this evening out into mid-afternoon there. Brian, what's the latest as you know it?
Yeah, it's still an active manhunt, Blake. You can feel that when you're here. There's people, officers in SWAT gear. There's tanks driving around. The security vibe has intensified over the last 2 hours. They've created more of a perimeter. We've seen Secret Service show up. We know that Kash Patel is coming to Utah. We know that J.D. Vance has already landed in Utah. Whether or not there will be an official visit here to the site, we don't know, but I can tell you security is much tighter than it was this morning. Really just a breathtakingly sad scene at the airport. This is the hearse carrying Charlie Kirk's body that will be loaded onto Air Force Two, Vice President J.D. Vance's plane, and he will take the body out of Utah. So that will be happening later today. But we just got these photos of the hearse bringing Charlie Kirk's body to the airport there, assisted by the National Guard there, we're told. In the other box on your screen, you see the suspect. This photo was just released today, Blake. Take a good look at it. It's from surveillance cameras inside the university. It's a good photo. It's a pretty clear photo. If you knew this guy, you would recognize him in the photo. Despite the hat and the sunglasses, you can tell if you knew his identity, you'd be able to figure it out. So hopefully tips are coming into the FBI. There was supposed to be a press conference hours ago. They came out to all of our media tents and said, hey, we're postponing the press conference. They didn't give an updated time, and we've heard nothing else ever since. So we're just sort of waiting to see what happens next out here, Blake.
Brian, you would think that they might be zeroing in on the shooter. They put out that picture, as you referenced, of a person of interest, but yet we haven't heard a name of who they believe is behind this. As you mentioned earlier today, they came out and cited those quote-unquote rapid developments. Do you think they're getting any closer to saying, this is the person, this is their name, this is who we are, who he is, or they are, whoever it might be, and we need your help trying to find them?
I do. I think they're making progress. That's the sense that I get on the ground, Blake. I think that's why they postponed the news conference. I think once this photo came out, tips started coming in. I think Kash Patel coming here is an indication. Perhaps they're waiting for him to arrive to make some kind of announcement or have him lead the press conference. But the sense here is that things are happening behind the scenes for sure.
All right, our Brian Enton live tonight in Orem, Utah. Brian, thank you. Eva Terry was just feet away from Charlie Kirk when he was killed yesterday. She was covering Kirk's speech for Utah's Deseret News. Eva, live with us tonight here on The Hill. Thank you for being with us. I'm sure it's been an absolutely harrowing 30 hours for you at this point in time. You were there to cover the event. There were hundreds, thousands of people there in attendance, and then you witnessed all of this. How are you doing tonight?
Well, it was a really late night, just working, and then we had an early morning press conference here at 7 a.m. So it's been pretty crazy. I don't think I've had much time to process it yet, but it has been absolutely wild here. Yeah.
The event, as I mentioned, was attended by, it looked like probably several thousand. I don't know. You were there, so you could probably put a better number to it than me. What was the anticipation like, Eva, building up to this? How were those many students, or mainly students, anticipating all of this leading into it?
Yeah. So Wednesday morning, I was at campus starting at around 9 a.m. And then my friend and coworker Emma Pitts and I went down to the amphitheater where it was at 11. And so we took an hour interviewing students leading up to Charlie Kirk arriving on the stand. And it was a really, really happy atmosphere at the beginning. People were chanting his name, and someone had a cutout of Trump, and they were getting pictures with him. There was a lot of red, white, and blue. And there was a couple behind me. They were there with their granddaughter. So it wasn't just students, and there were a ton of students there, but there were 3,000 people there, but not all of them were students. It was almost a community event. So very exciting atmosphere, and that all changed really, really quickly.
You heard Brian there say that his sense is that authorities, state and federal, are getting closer. At least that's the sense there. You're on the ground there as well. What's your sense?
I feel like that's the same vibe that I've been getting. Yeah, I'm on UVU campus right now, and we had a press conference scheduled, and it was pushed back. And then we heard that Kash Patel was coming. So people are optimistic that with such a high-profile administrator for the FBI coming, that we would have some answers at least, since we have had so many people, over 200 people giving the FBI information.
Ava, let me leave you with this. As you're talking to people there tonight in your town, what are they telling you?
There is a lot of sadness in Utah right now. We, as a community, we're really excited to have Charlie Kirk. And I know at Deseret News, my coworker Brigham Tomko had just done a profile on him and considered him to be just an amazing man. So we're devastated that this happened here, and we just really want answers on the killer.
As do all. Ava Terry with us tonight, Deseret News. She was there to cover the scene yesterday and saw it all unfold. Ava, thanks for being with us tonight. Joining us now, former Battleground States Director for the 2024 Biden and Harris campaigns, Dan Cannon, former Trump Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney, NewsNation political contributor as well. Mick, hello. Dan, hello. Mick, let me start with you. It seems like law enforcement is getting closer. Brian Enton covers these cases and knows them inside and out. So when Brian says it feels like they're getting closer, obviously you listen and you take him at his word there. But I want to start with you on sort of the day after here and trying to process all this. You are a former Republican congressman turned Trump White House chief of staff. You know conservative Republican politics inside and out. How are you processing all this?
It reminds me a lot of what happened back in 2011 in a way. What happened in 2011, by the way, right after the new incoming class got sworn in from the 2010 election, Gabby Giffords got shot at an event in her district in Arizona. She thankfully wasn't killed, but she's been permanently disabled from that event. And we all found out about it as families. All of our families that come to orientation, I think we went to Williamsburg, Virginia or something like that. And it sort of drove home for all of us the risks that we take. This is much, much worse than that. Why is that? When you run for elected office, you sort of assume a little bit of this risk. I'm not saying that that you expect this to happen. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, look, I put myself out there. I'm going to run for office. It's different than being an ordinary member of the public. This is someone who was a commentator, an activist. There's thousands of people like this out there on both sides of the aisle. And everything I'm hearing from folks in Washington, D.C. tonight from my friends is that everybody's scared. And you can't blame them. That husbands and wives and mothers and fathers are scared for their families, because if it can happen to Charlie Kirk at an event in a small university at Utah, where can't it happen? Keep in mind, members of Congress don't have any security. Obviously, Charlie Kirk didn't have any security, but 99.9% of the people who engage in political debate don't have political security. So this is a big deal.
He did have private security, Charlie Kirk did with him, but to your point, most people don't have that. Mick, Dan, stand by. Let's pop up the live picture for a second here, because I'm being told that President Trump is landing in New York. That, of course, Air Force One. We heard Mick from the president as he got aboard Marine One. He's landing in New York. He will be at the New York Yankees baseball game tonight, of course. Today as well, the 24th, anniversary of September 11th. How are they processing this and handling this, Mick, inside the White House?
Look, there's no easy way to do this. What they're trying to figure out what to do is how to strike the right tone. Trump is really, really good at it. Be curious to see how he look. He's got to balance a bunch of things, right? He's got 9/11 to deal with. He's got Charlie Kirk to deal with. This is not easy. This is why you run for the highest office in the land, right? Because you want to be front and center, speaking to your nation at times like this. So I think that's what it comes down to, is what tone do they strike? How does he address this issue? How does he address the 24th anniversary? Honestly, I'm surprised. I don't think we went to a baseball game when I was chief of staff for the president. So it's a big deal for them. And it's the whole nation will be watching. It's not like it was when George Bush went to the Yankees game after 9/11, but it's going to be close. This is going to be this is why you get paid the big bucks as president of the United States.
Dan, you run one of the biggest Democratic shops here in town. When you talk to folks on your side of the aisle, what are they saying? What are you telling them?
Yeah, I think Mick is right. Tone and leadership is paramount right now, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. And I think for a lot of people, most Democrats I've seen, elected officials, leaders of firms, leaders of organizations, have been saying what you hope they would say. They're coming with empathy, with shock and horror for this tragedy, and calling it for what it is, a senseless tragedy. I do think that in a place of political debate, where we come from this combative environment in our politics, and Raphael Warnock today on the Senate floor was excellent on this, the public discourse, which is what we do, it's the good that we have in our system, is really important. But it doesn't take away the idea that you can disagree with folks and still be civil about it. And the fact that this tragedy occurred does not change the fact that I disagreed with Charlie Kirk on just about everything, vehemently. And the fact that I disagreed with him vehemently does not change the fact that it was, in fact, a tragedy with his family and for him. And this is a man who was a father of 2 kids, a husband, and by all accounts, a really good one, really loving in both respects. And I think what leaders need to do is, even if you have massive disagreements, deep disagreements on rhetoric, on policy, on politics, on approach to everything, you can choose today, certainly, to set that aside and focus on that humanity, that reality that he was a father and a husband, and stay there. And Barack Obama's and Abraham Lincoln's first, better angels of our nature, comes to mind all the time in moments like this for me.
Our coverage is going to continue here throughout the hour. As we mentioned, there is still a manhunt underway to try to find the person who shot and killed Charlie Kirk. As the news happens, we are here for it. Mick Mulvaney, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Dan Cannon, and see you back here later in the hour. Still to come tonight here on the Hill. We just showed you the president getting into the beast moments ago in New York City. Other side of the break, Laura Ingle, we are taking you out to Yankee Stadium as the president is about to arrive at an American landmark on a day in which this country remembers. We'll be right back. New York City, the Pentagon, Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Americans throughout the day upholding their vow to never forget the brave heroes and lives lost 24 years ago today, September 11, 2001. In New York City at Ground Zero, victims' families read the names of those lost when 2 hijacked planes hit the World Trade Center. At the Pentagon, an American flag unfurled to honor the victims there. And in Shanksville, the annual ceremony honoring the people who were on Flight 93, which went down after passengers stormed the cockpit, stopping the terrorists from hitting their intended target. The president addressing the lasting impacts of the attack at the Pentagon today.
24 years have passed since that Tuesday morning in September, and an entire generation of Americans have come of age in a totally different world. While they cannot remember the agony of that day, they are carrying on the legacy of those who lost.
President Trump now on his way to Yankee Stadium, where he will attend tonight's game. And that's where we find our Laura Ingle, who is live tonight outside of that stadium. Tracy Walder with me in a moment. But first, Laura Ingle. Laura?
Hey, Blake. Well, listen, long lines here at Yankee Stadium is nothing new, especially on a nice, hot, sunny day like today. But of course, you combine that with 9/11 and the Remembrance and the president coming here. You've got a lot of security, and they had to actually open up the gates an hour earlier than usual to try and get through some of that extra screening. Take a look here just behind me. You've got the NYPD Strategic Response Team. And I'll have Greg, our cameraman, swing over to show you the Bearcat that is standing by as well. And as we monitor the lines here of the people flowing in, President Trump, as you mentioned, is expected to be here soon. And the New York Times is now reporting that the Yankees manager, Aaron Boone, says not only is he excited that the president will be in attendance for this game on 9/11, that Trump might even stop by the locker room before the game to talk to some of the players. So we are standing by on that. The Yankees, of course, the president's home team, him being from New York, and the Yankees president, Randy Levine, has close ties with Trump, the two appearing together at a UFC fight in November. You might remember that. Trump has been busy making rounds at sporting events all year long. He'll be cheering on the Bronx Bombers tonight against the Tigers. The New York Yankees taking to social media, giving fans a head up that we're going to have some unusual security measures, Blake, and we've got our cameras pointed here. This is what you don't usually see at Yankee Stadium. Secret Service. They have been at every single mag all day long, and we have been watching them go around the perimeter. We know, of course, they're inside as well. So we continue to monitor the security that's going on here at Yankee Stadium as we await the president. Blake.
Laura Ingle live for us tonight. Laura, thank you. Over now to Tracy Walder, NewsNation national security contributor. Tracy, hello. Nice to see you. As I just told you in the commercial break, I'll tell our audience, I told our team this morning, I said, I'd love to hear from Tracy Walder today on the anniversary of 9/11. Here's a line about Tracy. Covert CIA operator for the CIA Counterterrorism Center who assumed aliases, thwarted terrorist attacks, hid in the trunks of cars on her way to debrief terrorists at black sites, and of course was a part of the team that eventually tracked down Osama bin Laden. Tracy, it is nice to see you. I wonder, as you sit back 24 years later and think about that day, how you take it all in.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Blake. It's interesting because on that day, obviously, you don't have time to think necessarily about what you feel. It doesn't matter. Your job is to make sure that this doesn't continue to happen. And it's really interesting now that I obviously have perspective to think about it. There is a part of me that feels that, I'm at fault, right? We are responsible for the fact that we missed this and that this happened. And that is something that obviously I have to work through. Others who were there on that day have to work through. And the fact of the matter is we did miss it. Obviously, we didn't miss it on purpose. Because of that, thousands of innocent people are dead as a result.
I think, Tracy, there would be some who hear you say that and wonder how you still feel that way all these years later.
That's a good question. I don't know. I do think part of it, too, is the 9/11 Commission, right, came out and it did expose a lot of issues, right, within our community. And at what point, did we not want to pass that information to the FBI? Should someone have stood up? Should someone have been the whistleblower? And I think it's so easy to be this Monday morning quarterback, right, and think about coulda, woulda, shoulda. But I think at the time, we did what we thought was right and what was the legal thing to do. And I have to look back on that and at least acknowledge the mistakes. It's part of how we sort of move forward.
Tracy, it's been 24 years, as we all know. We don't, the war on terror was front and center for so many years, a solid decade at least, if not more. It's not really part of the conversation anymore. Thank God There hasn't been another 9/11 style attack inside the United States since then. Where do you think we are tonight, 24 years later?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that question. One of the things I always get asked is, how did you feel when you found out that bin Laden was killed? That's a question I get asked a lot. I didn't feel all that much. Part of me was concerned because I think the problem is we think that we take out these heads and terrorists just sort of go away and evaporate. And in my book, I talk about how they're almost like starfish, right? Their appendages regrow. There is someone there to backfill that position. And you can kill all of these heads, but you cannot kill the ideas that come with it. In my opinion, these ideas are more profuse than ever, particularly with obviously rampant social media.
Tracy Walder, NewsNation national security contributor. I'm sure you've heard this a bunch, but we'll say it again. Thank you for everything that you did in those many years. And I know we'll talk to you again soon. Tracy, thank you.
Thank you, Blake.
Of course. All right. Still much more ahead tonight here on The Hill. We are live from Arizona on the other side of the break. These are live pictures right now in Phoenix, outside of the Turning Point headquarters, Turning Point USA headquarters. You can see the growing memorial there for Charlie Kirk. Air Force Two will carry his casket back home. The latest continues as the manhunt to try to find the killer continues as well.
I have no doubt that Charlie's voice and the courage he put into the hearts of countless people, especially young people, will live on. I'm pleased to announce that I will soon be awarding Charlie Kirk posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
President Trump earlier today, a live look right now at the White House this evening, where you can see there the American flags being flown at half-staff for Charlie Kirk, as you heard from the president this morning, saying that he will award Kirk with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. At this hour, the president and vice president, not in our nation's capital, a short while ago, President Trump arriving in New York for the anniversary of 9/11. He'll be at Yankee Stadium any moment now. The vice president, J.D. Vance, supposed to be in New York today, instead flying out to Utah to meet with Charlie Kirk's family and friends after Kirk was assassinated yesterday at an on-campus event. Our Kelly Meyer has the latest on what the White House is saying this evening. But first tonight to our Allie Bradley live in Phoenix, outside of the headquarters there of Turning Point USA. Allie, I've been watching your live shots throughout the day, the memorial there growing, and it's got to be absolutely gut-wrenching.
Those are the best words that I can even imagine, is gut-wrenching here, because we've been out here all day and this memorial has certainly grown. You can see a lot of people out here grieving the loss of Charlie Kirk. You can see a brief statement there from Turning Point on the sign in memoriam of him. And then you also have more memorial on the other side of the sidewalk that is also growing as well. And I want to show you, if we can come over here, Austin, there's some different signs that are down here. In God We Trust. There's a lot of different things that have Bible verses on them and things like that, because Charlie Kirk said that he wanted to be remembered for his bravery and his faith. Now, when it comes to Turning Point USA, he co-founded this back in 2012 when he was just 18 years old, and he really quickly became the face of that young conservative movement. And so that's why we're seeing so many of these young people out here. We've seen so many people breaking down. We've seen people out here with kids, with their families, saying they feel like they lost a family member. And we know today that we have photos of that hearse carrying the body of Charlie Kirk, the National Guard in Utah, looking over that as they get ready to get on Air Force Two with Vice President J.D. Vance and the Second Lady to bring Charlie back to Phoenix. Of course, this is the headquarters, where the headquarters are located here in Phoenix, where he was living, and he's going to be accompanied by his family as well. And we know that the Vice President is going to be speaking with the family, has spoken with the family, and we saw a very long tweet from the Vice President at the end. The most gut-wrenching thing that I've seen is he said, "You've ran a good race, my friend. We've got it from here." Just profound words, Blake, and just profound feeling out here, and just heavy is the way to put it out here, Blake.
Yep. Our Allie Bradley live for us on scene there in Arizona this evening. Allie, thank you. Over to the White House now. Or Kelly Meyer live at the White House. Kelly, as we've been reporting for a while now, there's folks all across that building behind you who not just viewed Charlie Kirk as sort of a star within the party and within conservative circles, but as a friend.
Yeah, I've asked so many White House officials back there today and yesterday, how are you feeling? Are you okay? And they just say no, just point blank. And it's just been really quiet. I know we talked about that last night when we heard the news, Blake, about the feeling here. It's just really somber and quiet. It carried into today, and today was really the first day we saw the president, and he talked about this multiple times at the Pentagon earlier. And then as he was leaving for New York City, he was asked about Charlie Kirk several times, and he told us that he spoke to Kirk's widow today. We were expecting him to speak to the family. He said she is just devastated, he said. He did say that there were some leads on who this person may be. I wanted to play a bit of what he had to say about Kirk's killer.
He's an animal, total animal. And hopefully they'll have him and they'll get him. What he did is disgraceful. Charlie Kirk was a great person, a great man, great in every way, especially with youth. And what he did, what this man did, was disgraceful. So hopefully we'll have him and we will deal with him very appropriately.
So the president also said they are making big progress towards finding the killer, he said. He also added on the killer's motivation. He says he has an indication, but he will let you know later. We also heard from his chief of staff talking about what she had to say to the team last night before they left, really calling them into the office and telling them to go home and hug their loved ones. Blake.
Our Kelly Meyer live at the White House tonight. Kelly, thank you. With us now, Charles Marino, former Secret Service special agent. Charles, it seems like, and thank you for joining us tonight. It seems like law enforcement is starting to zero in. They have identified someone as a person of interest.
Well, they have. It is still an active manhunt, which I don't think anyone in law enforcement wants to be in this place right now, but they are closing in, and they're closing in because of the evidence that was reported to be left behind. You had a weapon that reportedly was left behind, as well as identifying biometrics that were left behind. But there's another element to this, and you and I spoke about it last night. And that was the role that social media was going to play in this investigation. With close to 3,000 people in attendance, a lot of phones were on and videotaping, and they are being uploaded. And so now you've got investigators, primarily the FBI, that are also scouring social media to get all of these different vantage points during their investigation, which may help in identifying the shooter. We heard during the press conference yesterday a bit of frustration from the state police regarding the CCTV, the video cameras at the school campus, and the evidence that they were reviewing. The quality was not exactly where they would have liked it to be. I think that has both hindered the investigation and also caused law enforcement to have to rely on social media.
What does it say to you, Charles, that they've put out the pictures of who they are describing as the person of interest, but yet there hasn't publicly been a name revealed? Is that standard? Does it tell you that maybe they're not so certain, or what do you make of that?
Yeah, like the first two subjects that were taken into custody yesterday, I didn't think that there was a good chance that those were the two people involved in the assassination. And the reason why was because this was a shot that was taken at Charlie Kirk from a great distance. And because that shot was taken from a great distance, that means you're further out on the perimeter of the event, and that means you're closer to escape routes. Remember, when a critical incident takes place, there's close to a minute of really trying to mentally absorb what just took place. And then there is chaos. And we spoke about that chaos giving the shooter the ability to blend in with the rest of the crowd that was making their exit. So this was in the adversary's advantage. it certainly plays into the element that this was well planned. We didn't know whether the shooter's background was that he was local or whether he traveled from a distance. But what we did agree on was that there was advanced planning prior to this attack. And it was easy to do because this was a public event with a very, very low level of security, unfortunately.
Charles, when do you think law enforcement eventually says, we've got our guy?
I say within 24 hours. The big question is whether this suspect is found alive or dead. Unfortunately, it's the latter in most cases. Obviously, we want this person to be found alive. We want to know what planning went into this. We want to know what the causation was, what was the issue that caused this person to act out. And then the other thing is, were there others that were involved in this plan to assassinate what essentially was a U.S. citizen voicing his opinion in a transparent and respectful way?
Charles, thank you so much. We got to leave it there. Thank you. A live look right now inside. You are looking live at quite literally the clubhouse of Yankee Stadium and the President of the United States on this September 11th.
George used to come for some reason. I don't know what it was. We won every time I came. Randy, is that right? Every time we came, we'd win a game, and he'd call me. He was, you think that was easy sitting with him for a game? It wasn't. It was brutal. You were exhausted at the end, but he won, and you're going to win. You're going to go all the way, and you'll get in the playoff, and I think you're going to do. I think we'll start off. How about tonight? We'll start from tonight off, and you're going to do well. Randy was telling me the Boston Red Sox came to the Oval Office. They wanted to come, so I said, what am I going to do, say no? So, and they won 15 games in a row.
That was bad news. Bad news. We're changing the luck here right now, Mr.
We're going to change it right now. So I just want to wish you guys a lot of luck. You're great players. I know every one of you. Let me shake hands around here. Come on. I shake their hand. Should I shake their hand? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm here as well.
You started out tonight, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're watching here inside the clubhouse of the New York Yankees. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, as you can see there, shaking hands, talking to players. He is there at the game, of course, as today is the 24th anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks.
So you have that much muscle, you have to hit the ball first. You're a fantastic player. I appreciate that. Unbelievable player. Thank you. I appreciate that. Great to know you. Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor.
I paused there for a moment because, as you can see, it was the president shaking hands with Aaron Judge, the reigning MVP, one of the greatest Yankees of all time, and the President of the United States. The president in attendance tonight. New York, of course, in the focus, as is the Pentagon on this day, and Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and the 3,000 Americans who had their lives, who were killed on that day. You just saw the camera leave the clubhouse there at Yankee Stadium. The game is supposed to start in about 20 minutes or so. The President of the United States in attendance. He started his day over at the Pentagon with the First Lady, one of the three sites that was attacked 24 years ago today. When we return on the other side of the break, America 24 years later. A town and a country rocked by senseless political violence.
I don't care what his politics are. I care that he was an American.
Charlie and I agreed
on what matters most. That you do not have to agree to get along. What matters is how you disagree.
This moment, as tragedies demand, is moral clarity.
Be open to the possibility that you might be wrong. Talk to somebody you disagree with and treat them like a human being. Try that.
All right, 6:48 back here in Washington and in New York City. We were all just watching live moments ago as the President of the United States, Donald Trump, entered into the clubhouse of the New York Yankees. He's there in attendance tonight. 24 years after the September 11th attacks, the President and the First Lady starting their day over at the Pentagon. Services as well, as there are every single year on this day in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. And tonight, the President in the Big Apple. Full panel here with me now. Bill McGinley, former cabinet secretary in the first Trump administration. Linda Tran, former senior advisor to the Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. T.W. Origi, former communications aide to Senator Lindsey Graham. And Dan Cannonen, former Battleground States Director for the Biden and Harris campaigns. Hello to you all. Thanks for being here on this day, which has turned into a huge news day in many different ways. TW, you just finished a stint over at the Pentagon. 24 years after 9/11, as I said to Tracy Walder, 20, 30 minutes ago, we don't mention the war on terror anymore. Thank goodness there's never been another 9/11 style attack since then. Where are we right now as you see the commander-in-chief tonight in New York City?
Well, as the events of yesterday showed, we're missing unity. And a lot of credit back then goes to George W. Bush and the tremendous job he did in the aftermath of that attack. But what yesterday shows us is that we need to break out of our bubbles. We are in such information bubbles. People aren't running home as they did on 9/11 to get the news from Peter Jennings. They're in their phone with faceless names, pumping out misinformation. They're going to podcasters and influencers. Charlie Kirk called us to break ourselves out of those bubbles, to reach out to people we disagreed with, to find common cause. And so I ask us to channel our anger and our frustration and our sadness as Christ would do, as Charlie wanted us to do in Christ's footsteps, and treat our neighbor as ourselves and find that common ground to build that unity we had after 9/11, because it's vital.
Yeah, I was struck by Tracy Walder's comments on where we were compared to 25 years ago, and the impact of social media, as TJ said, or TW said, excuse me, on what that means for information transporting to folks and how that translates into activity. And it's scary out there because the algorithms do promote and incentivize terrible speech, terrible rhetoric, terrible behavior, and gets attention to that stuff. And we haven't had a 9/11 style attack, but we've had events like yesterday and in Minnesota, and also 615 school shootings in the last 10 years. All that I think is connected to this. And I think if you're a leader of either party or an organization, you got to find a way to run against the algorithm for a while and find a way to just be a real person and lead and not go down that rabbit hole.
Live pictures there inside Yankee Stadium. I take it that that's probably the box where the president is going to be sitting, Bill.
I think 9/11, to me, the lesson of 9/11 and what happened yesterday, every time we have a dark day in America, it's the common man and woman who leads us out. It's not the politicians. The angels in the stairways going up the towers to save lives. The security detail that Charlie had rushing to his aid yesterday to try and save his life. Common men and women. I think about the shooting in South Carolina at that AME church, and it was the parishioners and the victims who forgave the shooter that showed the nation how to come out of it. I think those are the lessons. America is a bottom-up country, and I think the leaders that are actually going to give us a roadmap are the ones that are going to follow the example that our friends, neighbors, and family set.
Linda?
I mean, I think that the major difference is that 9/11, which feels like yesterday, not 24 years ago, was that we were all attacked. We felt like there was a common enemy, and that's what brought us together. And what we saw yesterday is, I think, a culmination. To Dan's point, we've been seeing all of these violent acts happen, and it's attacks from within. We're attacking each other. And to me, the solution, a large part of it has to be, we have to be accountable for the things that we're saying on both sides of the aisle. I mean, this is the reason why when you have kids, you teach them to be kind, you teach them to be respectful, because the way we behave, the words that we say, they matter.
TW mentioned George W. Bush, September 14th, I believe, or 13th, either 2 or 3 days later, down there at Ground Zero. I hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knocked down these buildings will now hear all of us soon. George Bush, right after 9/11.
One of the great moments of presidential history.
Yep, indeed. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Our coverage continues here on News Nation, other side of the break. Stay with us. All right, before we head out tonight, it's been 24 years since September 11, 2001, but it was a moment that took place 7 weeks after that we want to end the show with tonight, October 30th, 2001. President George W. Bush steps out onto the field at Yankee Stadium to deliver the first pitch in front of not just 57,000 fans in attendance for the World Series, but indeed the whole country. In a moment perhaps much needed, it was the Yankees captain, Derek Jeter, who had famous words of wisdom for the president before he took the mound. He told him, quote, "Don't bounce it because they'll boo you." And then this, a strut to the mound, a confident wave to the crowd as if to say, "I got this," and then a dart, an absolute dart, a perfect strike in front of the whole world. As mentioned, 24 years later, President Trump, a live look right now inside Yankee Stadium, in attendance for tonight's game. He's taken in many games before, and the commander-in-chief is there live tonight, 24 years later. But we also remember that moment 24 years ago in October when the U.S. president, wearing a bulletproof vest at the time, took to the mound at Yankee Stadium with a simple task, it seemed, but also a monumental lift to a country that was down, but definitely not out. George Bush then, Donald Trump live inside of Yankee Stadium tonight. Elizabeth Vargas reports just minutes away. She'll be speaking with one of Charlie Kirk's good friends, Jack Posobiec, who guest hosted the Charlie Kirk Show today. Our coverage, of course, continues here on News Nation. I thank you for being with us tonight. I'm Blake Burman. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Elizabeth starts right now.